Hi everybody, Joe Mineo here from Joe Mineo Creative, and we're still talking about the holidays leading up to Thanksgiving. I know it's the beginning of the month and we think we have a lot of time, but better safe than sorry to start prepping for your centerpiece now rather than later, since you're going to have so many other things preoccupying your mind. So what we're going to do today is something a little bit off the beaten track, and we're going to go with something that's a little bit more on the glamorous side, but using product that's not so glamorous. What we're going to do is we're going to start off with just very inexpensive sheets of craft paper. Now, as you can see here, we've got purple and we've got copper. I'm going to mix those two colors together this year for Thanksgiving. And we chose a very glittery, shiny kind of metallic paper, and we're going to use those as a runner. So we're simply going to lay those right across our table. I'm almost using a checkerboard fashion here by separating them a little bit on and off and making one higher, one lower, just to give a little interest to my table. The major component to our design today is going to be ornamental cabbages. Most ornamental cabbages you can get at your landscaper or your garden store, that type of thing. They don't usually sell them at grocery stores, but you never know. And what we did was we wanted to give it a little bit of a metallic feeling. So we misted the edges of our ornamental cabbage with a product. This is Krylon High Metallic Copper. And we just used it very simply, not too heavy, because I didn't really want to cover this beautiful natural blue-green color. The natural purple that's in the center, we glamorized a little bit more by using another product by Krylon, which is the Glitter Blast in the purple. So it almost kind of comes to life. So you're going to see how we use this in a couple different ways. The first way is we took the center of our cabbage and we cut it out, correct? Just like that. So what it's doing is it's creating almost a bowl effect, as so. The thing about ornamental cabbages is even when you cut the bottom, they're not very flat, so they don't stand up very nicely. We hot glued a small plastic container, giving us a little level there that's going to make it stand up. And we're going to insert these very inexpensive bowls that we got at the dollar store right inside of our cabbage bowl. Now, you could certainly add water, some floating candles, and use this as a centerpiece. But what I was actually thinking of doing is incorporating those onto the table and then having extra bowls ready with food and attaching those right inside for easy transition. When this particular item is starting to empty out, you can flip it out. So we're going to use those actually to serve food in, right? The center of our cabbage, we're going to use as a little bit of a design, and we're going to start laying these out. The one thing I wanted to mention to you is sometimes when you're using ornamental cabbages and you cut that center portion out, it doesn't always fit perfectly. I wanted to show you another way. So what we did was we took all of our leaves from the cabbages and we simply glued them on to the bowl with hot glue, starting on the inner side and just moving them over almost like a big open cabbage rose. You're going to be using quite a bit of hot glue to make that happen, but it really creates the same effect and it lays beautifully flat. So that gives us two different options of how we created our cabbage bowls, right? So we'll put a bowl here, we'll put a bowl there, and then we'll add our insert bowl. And then we have the centers of our cabbages. We'll add those into our design. Let's put one there and one here. We'll get rid of this spray. And then these larger cabbages. So obviously, these are ones that we did not chop up or cut. We did mist, like we mentioned. We added the glitter spray, and we're going to be adding one on this side facing towards me. And we'll add another one possibly here. We'll put the little baby in the front. So you see how this is kind of coming together. Another thing I wanted to mention was these very inexpensive wooden candlesticks. We used a product that we've talked about before, which is the glossy wood tone, right? This is a product from Design Master. Get it at most of your craft stores. What it does is it'll give you that stained effect without actually having to use stain. So we're going to have two different heights. Let's add one here, one there, a taller one in this corner, shorter one on that side. Instead of using candles instead of our candlestick, what I'd like to do is take some of these beautiful lavender roses. You can certainly get these at the grocery store or your florist. You want to make sure you get roses that are going to be a little bit on the larger head size because you want them to open up beautifully. What I just did was I removed what we call the birth petals. These are those petals that start to brown on the edge as the flower starts to open because those petals are maturing faster, right? So after we remove those, we're going to take the rose petals and we're just going to invert them with our thumb. So if you see, what's happening is it's actually giving the rose a whole different feeling, like so. And it's giving this beautiful kind of open cabbage rose effect. With that, we're going to cut the stem off, leaving about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and we'll incorporate those right into, use my scissors, right into our candlesticks. Like I mentioned to you, instead of candles. So we'll do the same thing here. Invert. You want to be a little fragile with them, especially when you start this process, because it's a little tricky. And obviously, if one breaks, you'll just tear that rose petal off. And when you start to insert them, if you notice, you see how that one's a little bit too tall, so it's moving around. You'll want to cut your stem so it fits in nicely and it holds in there perfectly. We're going to add a few votive candles to this design because nothing's better than some candlelight. And if we're not using candles in our candlesticks, we definitely want to be using candles down low to the table. Well, like I mentioned, a little bit too tall, just like so. And you'll follow through with that throughout the entire design, all on our candlesticks. We're going to finish this off by taking some hard shell nuts. And you know, I use chestnuts and different types of nuts here. We decided to use the same style of chestnuts, and we spray painted them copper. And we're just going to add them to the bottom of our design like so, giving the whole table another texture. I like, especially for Thanksgiving, a centerpiece that has a lot of body and it's nice and full. And this is definitely a way to do that without breaking the bank because there's so much volume with our cabbages. So this is our idea for this week. I hope it's something that you can use for your holiday. Stay tuned next Thursday. We'll have another idea for you. Have a good week.